There it is. I would like to just make a disclaimer that every conversation, all 22 episodes of podcasts up to this point have been deep fakes and written and spoken, narrated by Chat GPT.
And synthesized by AI synthesized voice people. This is actually our real voice today. It's the first time.
That's right. That's right.
Coming out of it. It's good. And I'm glad we're recording this on Valentine's Day. So we get to have a little fight, which is good.
Yeah, good. Let's have a lover's quarrel.
Lover's quarrel. Okay. About this. Yeah, the prompt here, the conversation was what'd you say, Chris?
Somebody had a graph with Netflix, users and time.
Right. And how long it took to get.
Yeah. And it was Chat GPT was straight up to get to the amount of users that Netflix has over 20 years or something.
Right.
And the question was, what do you see in this graph? And I said, I see a bunch of people outsourcing their voice.
And I said, okay, well, we're going to fight about that.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to fight about. We're going to, I'm teaching a class today for realtors on Chat GPT, and I use it regularly. And whatever other AI, I use Jasper mostly, but whatever AI. And my son was working on a project last night. He's got to take two different brands and have them work together to combine for a product or a service that you wouldn't think that they're going to, but it would have to be beneficial for both. And he came up with the idea, and I said, good, you should plug that idea into Chat GPT and have them craft a pitch, and then you edit that. And he came up with Arby's and Fitbit.
Oh.
And if you burn a certain number of calories, you get coupons at Arby's.
Nice.
It's right on, dude. Meat sweats.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, why don't you start? Because you're the one who started the post about outsourcing their voice.
I think it's important. What I said to you in the chat and the thread of that was, let's wrap the conversation in agency and purpose.
Okay.
Right. Not open houses and listing descriptions,
right.
And I think you could really hit this from any angle, but from where I sit in the world, where so much of the work that I've done over the last decade has been helping people say what they want to say. And I think that's a form of leadership. Like when your homeowner, your buyer client, seller client, your community is listening to you for what do you have to say, and you haven't done the iterations of saying shit because you keep outsourcing your voice to some tool because you're too busy to do it yourself. You don't know where you stand. And so people don't know whether they can trust you.
Yeah, I think that's totally a fair concern.
Yeah,
for use of it, and from where I sit and literally, how I use it. If you don't already have a voice, right, then this is as good. Frankly, all right. So if you haven't done the work to get a voice, this isn't going to give you a voice. This is not there for that. This is the voice this is going to give you is the same voice you already have, which is, copywriting and the normal force field kind of conversations about what things look like. And you might as well outsource your entire social media campaign to a company that's going to post for you. And then you're going to wind up with a bunch of, slick images that everyone else uses. And there'll be the pictures of you being a Lamborghini leaner at some point. It's going to come down to that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Totally. I get it.
So Chat GPT, from my perspective, doesn't impact that use. That use case, I'm sure I haven't used it for that, but you could, I'm sure, use it to extrapolate on the existing conversations, right? If you don't already have a voice, this isn't going to give it. But the thing that I like about ChatGPT in particular is it breaks up the blinking cursor phenomenon. Like you write and I write, and you sit down at a blank screen and there's a blinking cursor. And I'm just left with fuck. Where do I start? How do I even get this? What's the lead in? What's the opening? And then how do I get going? And
good.
This eliminates that.
That's good. Yeah.
One prompt, and now you've got something to edit You got something to riff off. You got something to, I started a blog post, and this is actually going to be, we were talking about the book I'm writing, and this is going to be the thing I'm going to riff on in the book. But and we've talked about it before in the podcast, is the intersection of accountability, possibility, and listening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And where those three things intersect is where you really get the opportunity to empower your agents. This is written from the perspective of someone who's going to coach a team leader.
Mm-hmm.
What do you need to empower the agents on your team? Well, I'm asserting that there's some, if you did a Venn diagram, which I love, there's a accountability, possibility, and listening. And where those intersect, there is an opportunity to take the lid off someone's productivity. And I started this on Chat GPT, and I gave it the prompt or something, say, write me a blog post about the intersection of possibility, accountability, and listening. And it came up with a whole blog post about it, and everything that said in it was not it.
Right. Yeah.
Because I do have a voice.
Yeah.
And I know what I mean by possibility. And that is not what a computer would mean by possibility, because it's not the ordinary conversation for possibility.
Yeah.
And same with listening, and accountability got sort of close. But what I was left with was, this is not it. Which I could just now write, well, once I know what it's not, I can go, this is what it is. And now I can create from my voice, but I'm not staring at a blank cursor. And it, as a writer, there's a massive difference between editing and writing. There's, editing is way faster and on one hand, iterative, like, okay, I've gotten through the first layer of, oh, fuck, what am I going to say? So
I like
love
that.
it for that.
I like that. I retract my statement. I'm 100% in on what you said. I feel like in the education world, we call that scaffolding, like that, for those who don't have a voice, or who are those who stare at a cursor and don't know what to say. I actually like the idea that AI tools like Chat GPT could give you a memory jogger, a prompt for, it's not that we don't know what to say as human beings. We have all kinds of opinions every day, but how to find language. So much of what I do with people is like, I don't know how to language this thing. And I think, to your point, if you can find out what it's not, you have all kinds of things to say about what it is. And so to use ChatGPT as a prompt, as scaffolding for the thing you want to say to the world, I love that. I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think maybe my comment, go ahead.
Well, I think that, the pull inside the force field, and the pull just for humanity is what's the quickest, easiest, cheapest way for me to get this thing done, right? What's the path of least resistance? And so, there's a computer that'll do it, and this is not, there's still no authentic you in the computer. There is no shortcut around you being authentic in there. But, I'm going to use it today and teach a bunch of realtors on how to make 30 days of content in 30 minutes. Yeah. And every piece of that content is going to be my voice, because it's going to take out the heavy lifting of research and and do it. And, it's just, it takes out a lot of the drudgery. And for me, it leaves a lot more time for the creativity.
Yeah,
but,
I like that.
But the creativity part can't be outsourced. And you're just not, if you haven't done the work that you and I do, you've done with me, and we've done individually and do with others, to find your voice and craft it, it's still not useful.
Right. Yeah. I can see I have thought, where would I use something like ChatGPT or Jasper? And I've thought, show notes, blog posts around content that already has my voice, where it's trying to work with the algorithms and search bots, not human beings. Like, I'm okay with that. To me, that feels fine.
You can take the transcript of this show, feed it in there, and say, give me a 300-word summary of this, or 200-word summary using picking out these keywords.
Yep.
And it's now going to talk
Yeah.
the language of the search engine.
Yeah. I like that.
Right. So that's,
I think my commentary though and some, you I like to poke the bear sometimes.
of course, it's a great commentary. I mean, like, I think it's a really valid concern, because I think people do want to cheat code.
And even if I overlay my 13 years in the real estate industry with it, I felt like a lot of times as an agent, like a 33 touch campaign when that was popular with, MREA. And I'm like, Rainmaker was the name of a marketing company that would give you door hangers. And I'm like, dude, these guys have everything to said already. I can just buy what they said and send that to sellers. And so there was already in the gravitational pull and outsourcing of voice. And I related to it like, oh, sweet. One more thing I don't have to do. Yep. My concern is, especially in this day and age where people are looking for trust and leadership, who can lead, that if you go buy Rainmaker's door hanger or you buy Chat GPT's, blog post, at some level, you're going to miss the opportunity to forge a relationship built on trust because you just outsourced it to check a box. And that's it's
such a valid concern. If you're not going to edit it in your voice, if you're not going to make sure that every word in there is how you would speak, and it doesn't land in the listening to the recipient.
Yeah.
That, oh, Aaron's talking to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then don't send it. Then you can't send it. Right. It's not useful.
Yeah.
Otherwise just go buy a bunch of pre-programmed home valuation postcards and send them out. And those work. It's not like those don't work.
Right. Right. Good point.
They work. They just don't provide leadership. They can't. Right. So in the domain of providing leadership,
it gets to like, what game are you playing? That's, ultimately, and you can play whatever game you want to play, but I think it's worth investigating or bringing some awareness to the game you say you're playing. If the game you're playing is GCI and your postcards and your Chat GPTs allow you to what's the word you say? Blow up your GCI. Awesome. Great. That's the game you're playing. If the game you're playing, and I think, for this audience and the conversation I think you and I are hosting is, how do we begin to bring social change and impact to sometimes a system that feels like it's not super working? Like there's something in the human condition that could be massaged, and it needs not AI to massage it, it takes some other
authenticity. I think what you're speaking to, Chris, is, the authenticity of your voice.
Yeah.
Does it sound like you?
Right.
Which goes back to your first sentence, which is, if you don't have a voice, if you have a voice, right, then the Chat GPT is going to show up with not your voice. I mean, it's just, eventually, I suppose we'll be able to train the thing. Who knows? We now have the computing power that will get you to the moon in our pocket. So who knows if this thing can get your voice? But that it's, if you're engaged in leadership, let's just go back to that, right? As our touchstone.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're engaged in leadership, you're, I hate the term cutting edge. You're on the cutting edge. You're out leading, you're breaking snow, right? You're leading something. You're going out front and having a conversation that people aren't yet having, and you're empowering them to have this kind of new conversation for whatever it is that for me, it's agency. And are they engaged in, so great. Yes. I'm going to divert for a second to the course I did yesterday and come back to this. In leading Level Up yesterday, that's the training program, the 3-month training program that I offer. We have a whole conversation about time and how people's relationship to time is bullshit. Fundamentally, our default relationship to time is disempowering. And I have a woman with 2 kids and a husband she's new in real estate and complaining not spending enough time with her, like ordinary,
Yeah.
entrepreneur startup stuff. And so she was really like, alien in her face about me holding her to account for that. Nothing happens to you. Nothing goes in your schedule that you didn't put there.
Right.
And she came back this morning, so that was me leading a conversation for her. She doesn't go there.
Right.
I'm leading that conversation for her in the way that we were just talking, right? Like I'm empowering her to go someplace where she hasn't gone by herself. Leadership, right? That's what when we're saying leadership, that's what we mean. That was my reference point for this diversion. So she comes back this morning, just after having led it yesterday. And she said, after the class, someone called her up and said, hey, do you want to come to this award? Join me at this award function tonight or tomorrow or whatever. And she says, I don't know. I haven't seen my calendar. Let me get back to you. And she got home and she looked at her calendar and she, for the first time, was able to interrupt the automatic kind of people pleasing. I have to say yes. This is an opportunity. I can make this work. I can squeeze this in. I can fit it in, that. And she interrupted it and called him back and said, I'm not willing to dedicate my resources to that right now. Thanks for the invitation. And that's the kind of leadership we're speaking to. Okay. So if you're going to have if you're going to develop that kind of leadership in your life and your business, and that's what you're engaged in, and what you and I, Chris, are engaged in empowering people to do. That's really the purpose of Repurpose in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Is Chat GPT is not coming up with that idea. Chat GPT is not cutting through into new realms for people. Okay, it's just not going to. What it's going to iterate what already exists. Now, maybe that prompt in there will give you an idea of, oh, here's now what I could say about this that's distinct.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, it's built the scaffolding, it's built the platform, it's done the heavy lifting to build a foundation upon which you can now go see the conversation that we're trapped in.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm doing. This is where I want to take you. And I think that's an amazingly useful resource. Yeah. For that, as long as you're going to craft the communication to lead in the way you're committed to leading, I think there's a ton of, as long as you're not counting on Chat GPT or whatever AI to create the content that's going to lead the way.
Yeah. Right. I remember I got my real estate license in 2001. And then 9/11 happened. That I got my license in like April, May, and then September, 9/11, that created a market crash. It was a smaller crash and say like along the recession in 2008, but there was this panic in the industry, like what's happening. And I was at Keller Williams, and I remember Gary had said that and also at the time, right around that time, I started, and my office had a DOS-based MLS. So we had a computer, big clunky computer, DOS-based typing in, and then like within that year, we upgraded to a Windows-based MLS. But there was so much panic for agents being like, the internet is going to replace us, and it was agitated by this crash in the market. And Gary said, I'm paraphrasing here, but you're at a fork in the road, and you're afraid that the internet's going to replace you. And he said, we'll see. Like, ultimately, that's going to be your call, right? Because, and what he was pointing to is being a fiduciary or a functionary, right? Like, you're either going to be a replaceable agent who anybody can open a door, anybody can put a sign in the yard, and a dumbing down of the industry, because the internet is now going to do a bunch of things for you. Or even with the internet there, you can choose to be a fiduciary for your client that makes you irreplaceable because you have skin in the game, you have a voice, you're guiding, consulting, asking hard questions. And And we will see, he said, like, we will see which path you choose, you, the industry, which path you will choose. And I think it's pretty clear, 2 decades from then, that what a lot of people did was they did not step into a fiduciary mindset. They ran with the functionary mindset. And I see that this is another one of those moments in time for me that, like, this AI thing as a tool, you have a choice. You have a choice to either use it and become a fiduciary, right? Or use it, become a functionary that's replaceable, because anybody can use Chat GPT and get their license. Or you could use it like you're suggesting, where it really gives you, like, here's what I would say. Here's what it's not. This is what it is. And you're partnering with something like that to forward the industry and make the industry better.
Yeah. Or, you talk about the industry like anyone gives a shit about the industry, making the industry better.
Well,
Because I think when you talk about it, it's funny. It's the difference between talking about people and a person.
yeah.
George Carlin was, I saw a little clip of him. He was talking about, look, individual people are dear and darling. I love individual people, right? But you get more than a couple together and they're idiots. And you can't, people
Yeah.
are problematic. So the industry is clearly made its, industry itself is always going to be a race to the bottom. Industry itself is, by distinction, it's designed to become more efficient, less user intensive, more profit. There's nothing in an industry that's going to ever pull for individual fiduciary responsibility. It's counter to the idea of industry. Industry by itself is inherently, what do you call it? Production assembly line. And the industry of real estate has clearly chosen the path of Rocket Mortgage and Redfin and Open Door, and everything is designed to make things faster. And my whole riff on that is that's the basis of my whole real estate career is right. That's fucking madness that you would try and turn the most expensive thing you ever buy or sell into ordering an Uber. That's like the stupidest value proposition in the world. Why would anyone want to do that?
Yeah.
Except, people do. So the industry, I'm not out to save the industry or think that anyone, but what you can do is you can rise above or distinguish yourself from the industry. You can use it to say, okay, I'm going to use every available, it'd be like, well, I don't do email because it's impersonal. I mean, are you an idiot?
Right.
Do I have to do wet signatures with you, my friend?
Yeah.
Fax me that.
Yeah.
You like that meme, right? You know that meme?
Yeah.
Right.
No, but
can you fax me over that offer? No, I can't fax it from where I am. Well, where are you? I'm in 2023. So yeah, it's an upgrade to Word. It's going to be an upgrade to search very shortly. So it's an upgrade, it's an efficiency, but if you're either going to be used by that efficiency and get caught in the machinations of an industry and produce bullshit content that doesn't actually impact or change people's lives in any way, or you're going to use it to do the heavy lifting so you can make a bigger difference. You're going to leverage it to make a bigger difference with your communication. And I think, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Really good. Really good.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Well, I think that's our fight.
Okay. I feel complete about our fight.
I do feel complete about it.
I'm not moved.
Okay.
I am actually, I really do appreciate I think it's the wrestling with things like this that make it, that facilitate your leadership, that sharpen your leadership. And I know that you're always great for this kind of a lover's quarrel.
Yeah. Well, I just thought it's such a good one because I think that's a valid concern that a lot of people have with it. Aside from, I don't want to learn something new. Is, how people are like, oh, this is going to ruin education. And it doesn't, It's no more going to ruin education than having a calculator in your pocket ruin math. You know, it didn't ruin math to have a calculator in your pocket. It's, you just have a calculator in your pocket, and that's what you do now. You still need to be able to think through what numbers to input. So nothing changed there. Nothing changed with the thinking and the necessary knowledge of what you're going to input to figure it out. And you know, I don't think there's an argument that the dumbing down of people has happened. You know, our attention spans are shorter, that all that stuff's happening. I'm not going to argue about it. You know, I'm going to make sure that it doesn't happen to me, and I'm going to use the available tools I have. I'm just, like I said, I'm not going to fax stuff over when I can use Authentisign. It's just not going to. And you can use Chat GPT to write blog posts if you're not a dumbass about it and want to put out quality content.
Nice. That sounds like agency to me. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done. All right. Well, I'm complete. Now we're complete.
Now we're complete.
Thanks, Aaron.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Thanks. You too. See ya.